Now that we understand the population and the waiver system, let's walk through the application and service initiation process, a process that is often complex and overwhelming for families. This unit will highlight the steps involved, common barriers, and ways we can improve access to services. To apply for the iBudget waiver, families must submit a formal application to the Agency for Persons with Disabilities, APD, provide proof of a qualifying developmental disability, submit documentation either online, in person, or by mail. While the application process may seem straightforward, navigating eligibility and paperwork can be a major barrier for families, particularly those unfamiliar with the system. Even after approval, families are placed on a waiting list, now referred to as pre-enrollment. Individuals are categorized based on urgency, priority levels 1-7. Many families wait years before receiving services. Reducing wait times and improving transparency in this process is essential to ensuring individuals receive support before they reach a crisis situation. In 2023, the Florida Legislature changed the term waitlist to pre-enrollment, reflecting the need to shift the conversation around service delays. However, simply renaming the process does not resolve the fundamental issue. Floridians with disabilities remain without services while they wait. Some families qualify for immediate services if they meet crisis criteria. However, crisis applications require extensive documentation and approval. While the 15-day determination timeline is an improvement, many families still face delays due to bureaucratic hurdles and resource shortages. Improving efficiency and accessibility in crisis enrollment is vital to ensuring that individuals at risk receive services without unnecessary delays. Families on the pre-enrollment list do not receive waiver services. Some may qualify for Medicaid state plan services, but access is limited. APD sends annual letters to confirm placement and priority status, but many families remain in limbo, often struggling to access essential therapies and supports while they wait. This highlights why reducing the wait list and expanding services is crucial to preventing long-term crises. Once funding becomes available, individuals receive a waiver slot. However, there are additional steps. The individual must have active Medicaid enrollment. Families must quickly choose a Waiver Support Coordinator, WSC. Many families do not realize how fast they must act, which can lead to delays in service initiation. Providing clearer guidance during this stage is essential to improving the transition into services. The iBudget waiver has a special Medicaid rule. Once an individual receives a waiver slot, they must be actively enrolled in Medicaid to access services. However, pre-enrolled families do not benefit from this rule and must figure out Medicaid on their own, often leading to delays and confusion. Streamlining Medicaid enrollment before waiver approval could significantly reduce barriers to service access. A Waiver Support Coordinator, WSC, assists individuals with navigating available services, developing support plans, coordinating necessary resources. This is the only required service under the iBudget waiver. However, due to workforce shortages, many families struggle to find a WSC, leaving them in a service limbo even after receiving a waiver slot. Addressing WSC shortages is critical to ensuring families receive timely guidance and support. Once enrolled, APD conducts a QSI assessment to determine an individual's needs. However, the waiver funding process is highly restrictive. A computer algorithm generates a yearly budget. Budgets are not flexible, and families must justify additional needs. This system often leads to underfunding, forcing families to appeal for more services. Improving budget flexibility and allowing for individualized planning would greatly enhance service effectiveness. Once an individual receives a waiver slot, the next step is person-centered planning, where the Waiver Support Coordinator and WSC works with families to develop a support plan. This plan identifies which services, such as therapy, in-home support, or respite care, are needed. A key limitation is that services must fit within the assigned budget, which often forces families to make difficult choices. Expanding budget flexibility could improve outcomes for those needing specialized services. When the assigned budget is not enough, families can submit a significant additional needs SAN request. Requires extensive documentation, including doctor's letters and therapy evaluations. Requests are frequently denied or delayed for months. Processing time can take 4 to 6 months or even longer. Simplifying the SAN request process and ensuring faster approvals is crucial to meeting the urgent needs of families. Once a SAN request is submitted, the Agency for Persons with Disabilities, APD, must verify that requested services are medically necessary. However, budget approvals can take weeks or even months. Many families must appeal denied requests, adding further delays. Improving the transparency and efficiency of this process would help ensure timely access to services. After months or years of waiting, families finally get to start services, but new challenges emerge. Staffing shortages and wait lists for therapists cause delays. WSCs monitor and update plans, but families often struggle to find available providers. Ensuring adequate provider networks and workforce retention strategies is critical to making waiver services accessible and effective. The Consumer-Directed Care Plus CDC Plus program allows individuals to take control of their care by self-directing their budget instead of using traditional agency-based services. This option gives families more flexibility to hire caregivers, purchase supplies, and customize services to better meet their needs. The Consumer-Directed Care Plus CDC Plus program is an alternative to the iBudget program. It allows individuals to take control of their care by self-directing their budget instead of using traditional agency-based services. This option gives families more flexibility to hire caregivers, purchase supplies, and customize services to better meet their needs. To qualify for CDC Plus, participants must live in their own home or with family, not in group homes, be willing and able to manage a budget, with assistance from a family member or advocate, pass orientation and readiness training. Enrollment is voluntary, but many families struggle with the paperwork and regulations required to participate. Before joining CDC Plus, participants must pass a readiness review test, 85% score required, complete training on program rules, budgeting, and hiring workers, have their WSC certified as a CDC Plus consultant. Many families report that the training process is overwhelming and creates an unnecessary barrier to accessing CDC Plus services. The CDC Plus enrollment process includes completing multiple tax and program forms, submitting paperwork for fiscal employer agent FEA approval, undergoing a lengthy review process. Processing is supposed to take 2 to 3 weeks, but in reality, it often takes 6 to 9 months. Reducing processing times would allow more families to benefit from the flexibility of CDC Plus sooner. The CDC Plus budget is derived from an individual's iBudget plan and includes an 8% savings compared to agency-based services, a 4% fee for program administration. For individuals with high needs, this budget reduction can be a barrier to receiving essential services. Participants in CDC Plus must register with a fiscal employer agent, FEA, to manage payroll and taxes, set up background screenings for hired workers, ensure that all providers pass Level 2 background screening. These regulations are designed for safety, but they often delay access to caregivers and increase administrative burdens for families. Each participant must create a purchasing plan that outlines how their budget will be allocated, how purchases align with assessed needs. Flexibility allows families to hire neighbors or family for personal care, purchase approved medical supplies, save funds for one-time needs, e.g. medical equipment. Expanding flexibility while maintaining oversight is key to making CDC Plus a truly effective alternative to traditional waiver services. To ensure proper oversight of funds, purchasing plans must be submitted by the 5th of the month before the start date. WUSCs and consultants review and forward plans to APD by the 10th. APD ensures expenditures align with budget rules. Once approved, participants can begin self-directing their services, giving them more control over their care. Once approved for CDC Plus, participants go through a transition process. APD assigns a CDC Plus Medicaid provider ID. Traditional waiver services end the day before CDC Plus starts. Monthly budget allocations replace direct service payments. This transition allows families more flexibility, but also places additional administrative responsibilities on them. Participants are responsible for managing their own caregivers, therapists, and providers, submitting timesheets and invoices to the CDC Plus fiscal agent for payment, tracking expenses, and staying within budget. Families who fail to manage funds properly may face funding reductions or future audit issues. WSCs provide support and oversight to prevent mismanagement. While CDC Plus requires more oversight, it provides several key advantages. Empowerment. Participants choose their own services and providers. Flexibility. Families can tailor services to meet their individual needs. Cost efficiency. APD's budget reduction model ensures Medicaid sustainability. Better outcomes. Personalized care improves quality of life and independence. However, delays in enrollment, background screenings, and budget processing continue to create challenges for many families. Before we move forward, let's test your knowledge. What is the only required service of the iBudget waiver? The answer is Waiver Support Coordination, WSC. WSCs assist individuals in navigating services, managing budgets, and ensuring compliance with Medicaid and APD rules. Without proper coordination, many families struggle to access needed services. This highlights why support coordination remains a vital component